Hello everyone and welcome back to Nicktoons Attack of the Toybots. This time we're going into Factory Zone 3, which is the hardest factory zone and my favorite. This one doesn't get a really fancy introduction or anything, it just kind of plops us in. This section of Zone 3 has a really cutesy aesthetic and really cutesy bedtimey nursery rhyme music, which when I first played this game, I thought it was like mocking me, because this was really hard when I first played the game. And it definitely wasn't lost on me how funny it was to be having trouble platforming through pink flowery stuff. That being said, this section probably has my least favorite aesthetic in the game. Not because it's necessarily bad, but it's just my least favorite personally. The next section has my most favorite aesthetic, and it's also my favorite section in the game for unrelated reasons though. Anyway, after we get rid of this mandatory combat section, you'll see early on, most of the platforming here consists of moving flowers and hippos that shoot lasers. The hippos that shoot lasers can move up and down sometimes because they are flying hippos, so that makes it a bit more difficult to jump over them. They also shoot their laser beams in a really weird pattern, so you gotta jump over it by a lot. You can't just jump over it a little or else it'll clip you. You gotta clear it with some good height. I don't know if it's accurate to call it a pattern, but it's, they shoot it in a little wave, which makes it harder to jump over. So this part's really easy, but I thought it was a cute gimmick. You know how you hover in the air when you shoot the goo? Well, you gotta use that to your advantage, because you gotta shoot the sign to knock it over, and then land on the platform below. If you land on the platform and then shoot, then you'll fall, because they're, fallen platforms. So you gotta use your ability to hover in the air. This is the only section in the game like this, but I think it's super adorable that they built a hazard around the fact that you hover while shooting goo. I said it's the only section in the game like this, but I said that before. And I turned out to be wrong last time, so maybe I shouldn't say that so much. So this is the hazard that defines the cutesy area of Zone 3 the most for me, are these not these rotating hippos. We'll talk about it when we get back there. This hazard's just fun. This doesn't really define the cutesy area of the factory. This one's just super fun. Because, the flying hippo lasers clip through the wings. So you gotta jump over them at just the right time. It basically just adds an extra element of timing, but since you can go as slow as you want, it's not super bad. There's no rush. That being said, platforming on these rotating hippos absolutely destroyed me the first time I played the game. Maybe because I was trying to go through them too fast, but if you take things slow, it's not super hard. It helps that the controls are so responsive. So Professor Calamitous, he had to personally design this part of the factory, right? Because he made all the toys and everything. I mean, I guess he has toy workers, but he probably made the general design for this place. I gotta wonder why he did it. Did he want to hit every demographic? Because if he wanted to hit every demographic, I could understand why he made this place, because I could see these toys being very popular with toddlers and stuff. But do you have to buy the toys for him to take over the world? Because I was under the impression that he just kind of unleashed them anyway. Because if marketability is a concern, I think that changes a lot of stuff here, because I don't think anyone's gonna buy the giant Jimmy tank head thingy. I mean, I'd probably buy it, but I don't think normal people would. It's time for another Danny section.
I'm going ghost!
So it's another Danny section, and it's a lot like the other Danny sections. It was pointed out to me that it's really unclear what these numbered blocks actually do. I don't know what they do either, because I thought they gave you extra time, but it doesn't seem like it. And someone else theorized it determines how many glowy blue cubes you get out of it, but that doesn't seem to be the case either. So, I have no idea. If anyone has any idea what these numbered blocks do, let me know. Because they have numbers on them for a reason, I assume. So, let me know if you find out. Because I can't find any correlation between the numbers on the blocks and anything else happening in the game. And it's really bothering me. now that we got that out of the way, it's very hard to tell what distinguishes this Danny section from all the others. I mean, maybe there's more enemies or something, I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like these Danny sections are awful or anything, because they add variety to the game, and they're not terrible, they're okay. It's just there's not a lot to say about them, you know? If there was a whole game of just this, that'd be a problem, but there's not, because this is just a mini-game, and it does what mini-games are supposed to do. It adds a little bit of variety, and it's not super deep. Please someone tell me what the numbers on the blocks do. Hi, we're in another Master Model Chamber. This Master Model Chamber is for Hey Arnold, and I guess you could call Arnold a Nicktoons hero if you really wanted, but he's not a hero in the kind of sense I think Professor Calamitous was talking about. The thing I remember most about Hey Arnold is that it's not nearly as emotional as I thought it was when I was little. It does a lot of stuff right, like it doesn't treat children like idiots, because the children in the show aren't idiots, but the actual conflicts aren't nearly as emotional or interesting as I thought they were. Something weird about this game and the Irken technology in general is that, Professor Calamitous refers to the Irken people he's using as saucermen, so did he, like, make toys of Irken soldiers or something? You never fight Irken toy soldiers or anything like that. So before we entered the Danny tube, we started encountering flowers that, well, fell. The thing about these fallen platforms, though, is that they come back up if you wait long enough. This, almost never comes up, but still, I think it's cute. I guess if you really, I guess the level forgot to load there, but it's okay, it happens, no game is perfect. This conveyor belt section is actually really shockingly easy, because you've dealt with this kind of stuff in a way harder context back in the toy car area of the game. This is pretty much nothing at this point. If it is hard at this point, then you, probably in trouble, because the rest of the game is going to be really, really frustrating. So, this section was always super confusing for me, and it's still super confusing now. See all those green panels, those give out when you step on them very slowly, which will make you fall into the spike pit. And I could never figure out how to make this jump over here, so I just die, and it spawns me on the next platform. I don't think that's cheating, because I'm still playing by the game's rules. Anyway, I tried to say this way earlier, but these rotating platforms right here that we can hold on to, these are what define the cutesy section of Factory Zone 3 for me. Because these are the hardest bits of platforming in Factory Zone 3, and they used to give me little mini panic attacks. They gave my brother little mini panic attacks, and he wasn't even the one playing, he was just watching me do this. Like, I'm probably not doing it the way you're supposed to, but it works. And it looks terrifying, and it feels terrifying, but it works. And this next part's just a breather after that madness. You just gotta bounce on these bouncy turtles, which act like trampolines from way, way earlier in the game. So this is super easy stuff. It's time for the last SpongeBob slide.
Let's go sliding!
So I think I said earlier this is the SpongeBob slide that does the weird stuff. And the weird stuff it does is that it asks you to turn a lot. It may not be super clear from just watching, but turning in the sliding sections is really, really difficult, especially in the air. Because the way SpongeBob's momentum works and how fast he goes, turning large amounts can be hard. Turning small amounts, that's okay, but when you gotta do something like this, or this, or this, yeah, that's kind of terrifying. It's super easy to overshoot or undershoot, because when you're tongue sliding, SpongeBob has a lot of momentum and a lot of weight. So you gotta be super careful about that. You can't pull back too much or you'll miss the platform, and you can't pull forward too much or you'll... Even turning when you're not jumping is really hard. It's almost slide right off the ledge. It's just scary. This sliding section is really scary. The good thing is that after you get that down, you're good. After you get SpongeBob's weight down, you figured it out. We're in another master model chamber, and this one contains Crumb from Real Monsters. I don't remember very much about Real Monsters, but I do remember that Real Monsters had a KFC Happy Meal sort of deal, where you could get special Real Monster straws. I also remember there being Real Monster toys at another fast food kind of location, but I can't remember what it was. It's entirely possible I was just wrong though, and I got it confused with another license, or it just didn't happen at all. Because human memory is not the greatest thing. Anyway, that's it for this Master Model Chamber. I don't remember anything about the cartoon at all. I don't remember a single thing. Hey, so we're finally at the part of the game where they started putting hazards on these little slides. Only one so far, though, right at the end. One little laser at the end. But by the end of the game, there's going to be a ton of hazards on those slides. And that's just trial and error. There's not a lot you can do about that. I really like this hazard. It's not a hard hazard, but I really like it. You gotta jump on the toy boxes to get enough height to get over the lower lasers, and you gotta duck to get under the higher lasers. It's a real simple idea. It's more of a puzzle than reactionary platforming or anything like that, because you know what to do. I guess the conveyor belt adds a little bit of challenge to it, but it's still real easy. It's super easy stuff, especially for this game. You just jump over, then duck, then jump over, then duck. And before you know it, it's over. So up ahead, after some negligible laser hazards, we got another combat section. And we're going to do what we always do in combat sections and just kind of run around and press square, which shoots goo. It's the goo shooting button. This whole section kind of reminds me of, you remember when McDonald's had toddler toys, like toys for kids that were too young for the toys that may have small parts that they can choke on and die from? Kind of reminds me of that. Also reminds me of Fisher-Price in general. Fisher-Price actually has a really well-organized website where you can sort through toys by age and figure out what your child might be doing at the time cognitively and what kind of toys they would prefer. They're focusing on a very specific market of, younger kids, not really anyone too older than 5, everybody younger than 10. Which severely limits the kind of stuff they make and sell. But still, it's cute, and it reminds me a lot of this aesthetic. I mean, that's not to say that the toys they make don't have artistic value or anything like that, because, of course they do. It's just they're selling to a very specific market is all I'm saying. The same market that Professor Calamitous probably had in mind when he made whatever this stuff is. I would talk about this platforming, but it's, you probably know what this is. You've probably seen this before. It's not really hard to talk about. I'm a little bothered they abandoned the color coding that was in the earlier levels for ducking over and jumping over lasers, but you can still figure it out by looking. It's just a little harder. The color coding was a really good idea though, so I'm not sure why they got rid of that. Maybe to make it more challenging. Remember these guys from way earlier? These rotating flying hippos? I say way earlier, but it probably feels like it was way earlier for me than it does for you. But you see...
Wonderful news! You have rescued 300 fairies, but there are still more to be found. Do you see this cardboard thermometer? It goes up to 500. You have only found 60%. When you have rescued all 500, I will reward you. What are you waiting for? Get out there and find the rest.
Already got my hands full trying to preserve video games, but people who try to preserve toys, I salute them for that, because that's real tough work. So this is the section with rotating platforms where my brother started getting mini panic attacks with me, because he thought I was just being crazy. Like, he's like, what are you doing? Stop this. This is just nuts. Why are you doing this? Just do what the game wants you to. Stop doing this weird speed run and stuff. And I'm like, no. Because it's faster this way. Like, sure, what I did on those platforms back there may seem super terrifying, and it was super terrifying, but it's better just to rip the bandage off, it's, I don't want to hang on the platforms using the R2 button, I'm just going to go full speed ahead. This is another mandatory combat section, by the way. You know, I think the biggest shame about the Nicktoons games is that we never got a Double Dare 2000 crossover. Because, you know, it's just sitting right there. Just, I know it's not a Nicktoon, but can't Double Dare 2000 or the announcer from Double Dare 2000 be a villain or something? So I already said before, in one of the earlier episodes, I'm really good at sections like this. So I'm not sure what else to say, because this is just another one of those where we're climbing on a moving platform. Like a grid-like moving I still don't know if there's a name for this, you know, like the wire cage things from Super Mario World. Because I don't know what these are called. But I'm really good at these. So, if anybody knows what these are actually called, because it sucks to be good at something that nobody knows what is called. But yeah, these sections are fun. I like these. That's it, we're done with those now. We're actually almost done with the cutesy toy aesthetic part in general, and we're gonna move on to my favorite section of the game soon. Not that this section was super bad or anything, it just has my least favorite aesthetic. So this is a way harder version of that thing we did earlier where we were jumping on toy boxes to get over lasers. Because now the lasers are at really weird heights, so you gotta jump straight through the middle. A single jump will do. For when you gotta jump through the middle, I mean. A single jump will do the trick. Don't double jump, you'll jump too high and hit your head on the lasers. A single jump will do the job. Yeah, like that. So, this one isn't as simple as duck under, then jump over, then duck under, then jump over, and there's two different kinds of toy box stacks, so you gotta use both kinds to get over the lasers and under the lasers. But it's a real short section, and, doesn't require a lot of fast reflexes. Hey, it's more of this. More of this stuff that really scared my brother. I mean, it probably looks really scary right now watching it on YouTube. But it's fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. I died a lot, but it was fun. Oh, we're in the space part of Zone 3, which is my favorite part of Zone 3 and my favorite part of the game. When we're running from this UFO, we gotta make sure to roll sometimes, otherwise the UFO will catch up. The roll, like I said, is like a dash, so we gotta use it to speed up. It's very hard to find the right time to speed up, but when you do, rolling is essential. Because if that laser touches you, you die immediately. Like poor Danny. So remember how I mentioned I really like hazards that clip you in the butt? This is one of those. It's really easy, actually, but it's kind of scary, because not a lot of platformers have hazards that clip you in the butt. Also, you remember how I said they were going to start including more and more hazards on the slides? This is when they start doing that. And it's really hard to see them coming. So you just kind of have to memorize it, but the slide sections are super short anyway. Unlike the 3D SpongeBob sliding sections. Something weird I noticed about this game, I don't know why they do this, but almost every time there's a series of platforms floating upwards, next to some trampolines, there's always like an extra section. Like there's an extra section right over here for Rocco. And I don't know what it is about floating platforms going upwards next to trampolines, but a lot of extra sections seem to be there. It's more UFO hazard time, which is good, because I love the UFO hazard. It's probably my favorite hazard in the game, because it makes me feel super smart for going so fast and dodging all the stuff. Rocco makes funny noises when he jumps. It's like weird spring sounds. I wish I could say more about running from the flying saucer, but it's just really satisfying to roll and jump out of a roll. It just feels real good. Wish there was more of that in the game. It's time to, I think that's a Gur. Yeah, that's Gur. I have a lot of strong feelings on Invader Zim, and most of them are positive. Lots of people seem to think differently about Invader Zim than I do, and that's okay. But you know, I've seen Jonan Vasquez talk about it, or rather I've read him talk about it, and based on his other works and his general mood and the stuff in the show in general, I think the good stuff I see in it is actually there. I don't think I'm just imagining it. Like I'm here, let me read part of that interview. Ultimately, my idea was to take his sights off world domination, as Zim begins to understand that there is a beauty in human life, as understanding that sets him on his path to become a public legal defender. I was very inspired by Ben Affleck's powerful courtroom scenes in Daredevil, and I wanted to move people to tears like those scenes moved me. But the show was cancelled before any of that, thus leaving our audience of 10 unfulfilled. See, he's a really weird guy in, like, every aspect of his life, and he seems like he was super attached to the Invader Zim license. And he said he was thankful for fans for bringing Invader Zim awareness to a higher degree than it ever was when the show was ever on the air, because they were so upset that it got cancelled. Lots of people are saying Invader Zim is back from the dead, and if that's true, I'm glad, and I hope more people will see what I thought was really special about it. Because when a lot of people remember it, they just seem to kind of write it off as weird, gross stuff. And I like a lot of colorful 3D platformers and nice things that are really friendly and not gross. So yeah, the gross parts of Invader Zim are still gross, but there's other stuff there to enjoy. Yeah, I mean, I know there's an episode about giant lice and Zim stealing organs and stuff. Everybody knows that. But there's more there to appreciate. So this section right here, this section with the moving walls of death and the trampolines to get over the walls of death and the strict timing in between the walls of death, this section absolutely destroyed me when I first played this game, just completely annihilated me. But I figured out this one weird trick to make it a lot easier. So there's these little nodes that are coming out of the ground that I gotta shoot with goo. See, when I first played this game, instead of shooting those nodes with goo, like I'm doing right now, see me shooting it, instead of shooting those nodes with goo, I would melee attack them, which was stupid. Because melee attacks are not instantaneous, they have a cooldown time, and you can't do them from a distance, so just be sure to use your goo during this section, and it's a lot easier. I mean, it's still going to be a close call sometimes when you got to jump over the wall of death, but it's a lot easier. It's time for more of those hazards that clip you in the butt, and it's a little bit harder with Rocco because he's shaped differently, so it's going to take some time to get used to that, especially on trampolines where you have less control over your character. But it's still one of the easier hazards in the space section, so you shouldn't worry super much about it. Probably only take a couple tries. Assuming that your skill scales with the game's difficulty, I mean, because if it doesn't, then, you know, this is probably just a really painful exercise for you, and you're probably only going to make it through the game out of sheer cussedness, and probably not because you're having a good time. Sorry about that, I had a bubble in my throat, and I have another one. Please remember, when you're recording Let's Plays, make sure you have a bottle of water or any kind of container of water nearby. Especially if you're going to be talking over like 40 minutes of stuff, 40 minutes of straight gameplay footage without any cutscenes. Because that's really important, having water. Also make sure you eat an apple or something beforehand. It's something to give you a little bit of energy, so that way you don't die halfway through recording. I'm just trying to help you out. You know, there's actually nothing I'd rather be doing than this right now. Because I really like doing this. I really like talking over video games and sharing them with people. And being able to share them with a significant number of people, that's just a bonus, you know? Sharing games and their design and what makes them special is really good, because who else is gonna make a Let's Play of Attack of the Toybots that tells you how great the design is? Seriously, let me know if someone else does that. These platforms, the timing on these platforms is really, really strict. The good thing about them being really, really strict, these moving platforms, is that you get your timing down real quick, because there's no room for error, really. After a few tries, you just kind of develop a rhythm for it. Now, some of the hazards in this game, like those ones back there, have a real sense of rhythm to them. But not all the hazards in this game are like that, so I wouldn't say this game is very rhythmic like I would with a bunch of other games. A bunch of other 2D platformers, I mean. Like, Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, those are super rhythmic platformers. This game's only occasionally rhythmic. It's really not fair to compare this game to those games because they're trying very different things. But I think they excel at the things they're trying to be. Like, I think Attack of the Toybots is just as valuable as Donkey Kong Country Returns. In terms of platform and design, I mean. The art direction and music and everything else about the new Donkey Kong Country games is a lot better, but in terms of platform and game design, I think this game's extremely valuable and has a lot to teach people. Especially people making games for children. It's time for my second favorite hazard in the space section. If we touch any of those meteors, we pop and die instantly, so we gotta go for the gaps. And you could be a scrub and just walk toward the gaps, or you could be like me and roll toward the gaps, because rolling is faster. When I first played this game, I tried to walk toward the gaps, and this section really kicked my butt. But now I know that rolling makes you go way faster. I think those meteors might actually be some of the easiest hazards in the level. Oh, it's tack time. It's more tack time.
I call upon the power of Juju!
Okay, so you remember last time when I said I ran out of stuff to talk about in the tack sections? Again, not because the tack sections are bad, but because I already talked about all the design basically. Well, I got some trivia here this time to keep things interesting. Okay, here we go. Did you know there's an official MLB licensed Nicktoons baseball game on the Wii and Xbox 360? That was it. That was the whole that's all that's on the notepad. Hi, welcome to the Master Model Chamber for Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, which is a really creative show with a really prominent aesthetic. It's like retro-futurism, like what people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s thought the future would look like aesthetically. And the thing I remember most about My Life as a Teenage Robot is that it had a really, really amazing third season. I'm not sure too many people know it had a third season, but yeah, it had a third season, and the third season was the definition of fan service. They just, they brought back pretty much every meaningful villain. They tied up a lot of emotional questions about the characters, and the writing was cranked up to 11 in general. Season 3 is like its own beast, really. I had to look up Season 3 later to make sure I didn't hallucinate it, that it got a really great final season, but no, it's real. I understand people being upset that My Life as a Teenage Robot is over, but at the same time, if you watch Season 3, it can't really go much higher than that. I think "quit while you're ahead" is actually a really important phrase to keep in mind when you're creating fictional media. And My Life as a Teenage Robot, I couldn't see it getting any more high quality than Season 3. I couldn't see it going any higher than that. Also, all the seasons are available to purchase, thankfully. So unlike Jimmy Neutron, you can just buy them and watch them whenever you want. Why isn't Jimmy Neutron available for purchase in its entirety exactly? Because it was a really popular Nicktoon when it came out, and I mean, if I can buy Robot and Monster on DVD, I should be able to buy Jimmy Neutron. It was released properly in Region 4, so if you live in Region 4, you can buy Jimmy Neutron on DVD because they released the whole seasons. But in America, they released best of Seasons 1, 2, and 3. And that's really not acceptable. Also, hi, this is the hardest hazard in the game. This one right here, where you have to use the trampolines to jump over the wall of death and also avoid the platforms that crack when you step on them and shoot the nodes to destroy them. This is the hardest hazard in the game. Except for maybe the 3D SpongeBob sliding sections. Just make sure you abuse the roll very heavily, and it should be okay. Also, remember to shoot the nodes with goo. Do not melee attack them like I'm doing right here. Shoot them with goo. As I was saying, it's very unacceptable that Jimmy Neutron didn't get a proper DVD release in America, or a proper digital release, or anything at all, really. I'm going back here to get some goo because I need it to open a fairy container. Sometimes the hit detection for grabbing the goo confuses me, but I think maybe that's just my fault and I'm not looking at it right. I'm not looking at it from the right angle. Not that you can change the camera angle or anything, but I mean, my perception is a little askew, probably. At some point, you gotta ask yourself, you gotta ask yourself some questions, like, should I be recording commentary while my nose is this full of boogers? And, I mean, the answer is probably no, but I'm already 30 minutes into the video, so I'm not gonna stop now. There's only like 10 minutes left. That's only like 1/4. I can do that. Maybe a slightly more important question. You ever just recording video games at 5 a.m. and you start questioning your own existence, like if you're real or not? Because you've been recording Nicktoons Attack of the Toybots for 30 minutes and 45 seconds about. And it's 5 a.m. and you're just kind of wondering if you really exist. Because that's happening right now. I think there's a word for that, but let's not worry too much about it. What is it with platforms floating upward next to trampolines in extra areas? Why is that such a common thing? Did they, like, feel compelled to put them there? Because I'm getting genuinely curious. Anyway, this is the asteroid hazard again, but this time with well, the floor crumbles underneath you. And it's not that bad as long as you remember that rolling makes you go faster. It's certainly a lot easier than the wall of death hazards. There we go, see, that wasn't so bad. Welcome to another Master Model Chamber, and this one's for Ginger Foutley from As Told by Ginger. So, I don't remember anything about As Told by Ginger. I remember it used to be on really late at night when I should have been asleep. But, you know, sometimes you get a little bored of watching Adult Swim and reruns of The Nanny, and you turn on the Nicktoons channel, and then they're airing As Told by Ginger, and, like, every episode of My Life as a Teenage Robot on loop. The Nicktoons channel is actually super weird, because, they already air everything that's on Nicktoons on regular Nickelodeon. The only difference is that the Nicktoons channel kind of got it later than the regular Nickelodeon channel. But I guess the Nicktoons channel existed because, if you didn't want to watch the live-action Nick shows, which I don't blame you, because, inexplicably, the live-action Nicktoons shows, live-action Nickelodeon shows started taking a turn for the more mean-spirited. I don't get what it is with so many modern sitcoms being real mean-spirited all the time. It's just kind of off-putting. Like, I think I get the idea. The idea is that cartoonishly bad things are happening to people. But there's a reason they're cartoonishly bad things, and that's usually because you reserve them for cartoons. You know? It might as well just be a cartoon, if you're gonna do that. This is another mandatory combat section, and it's probably the hardest mandatory combat section in the game, but that's not saying a whole bunch. Because there's not really a penalty for losing anything in combat. You just kinda do it again. And what you do again is not hold down, smash square. If you could hold down square, the combat would be even easier. I know we're near the very end of Zone 3, because after this, we gotta do the thing where we destroy the UFOs, and then the Zone 3's over. But I always underestimate how long Zone 3 is compared to the other zones. And I'm not even sure if it's actually longer, or if it just, feels longer. I guess I could probably just look at the YouTube video links when I'm done here, and that would answer my question for me. This space section of Zone 3 is definitely the hardest part of the game, though, so that probably contributes to it feeling longer. Anyway, we're almost done here. We just gotta run across some more crumbling platforms. Which, I'm not sure if these are really a platforming hazard, because you just mass jump to get through it. I'm not sure if that's how you're supposed to do it, but that's how I do it. And then we gotta destroy some UFOs, and we're done with the space section. Actually, I'm really close to the end game now. Probably only 2 more videos, and we're done. And those videos are gonna be a lot shorter. So yeah, we're almost done here already. I say already, but it's not like this game is easy or anything. So it's time to take down the UFOs, which requires doing a really weird out-of-place minigame that doesn't feel right. It feels very weird to do this mini game. It's not hard, and it controls a little weird, and I'm just not sure what this is here for. It just feels weird. I don't like it. But it's over pretty much, so I guess there's that.
Doesn't anybody listen to evil professors anymore? I said I have to increase evil toy production. But to do that, I need more fairies.
More fairies!
Send the savage SpongeBots to Fairy World to protect the harvester.
Send the savage SpongeBots to Fairy World! Aha! That's the sound of Chork and Von Strangle being neutralized! Nothing can stop us now!
Oh, yeah.
I'm a minion. All evil professors have minions.
You don't do an evil laugh, do you?
Like that, you mean?
I don't want you doing that again. Is that perfectly clear? My SpongeBots engage the Fairy Air Force so the harvester can lure more unsuspecting fairies into the mobile, all-you-can-eat storefront. Deviousness and evilness prevail. Sorry.